YouTube! How's it going, everybody? We are once again back with some more Chaos Zero Nightmare, taking a look at the newest character, Diana. She just came out this week. She is a passion hunter, brand new to the scene. She's also incredibly adorable. She's got her adorable little fairy cherubs, and she shoots you with her bullets of love. Yeah. You know, I didn't realize that we needed to shoot people with rice shower. I mean, Diana, but here we are. Haha, funny memes. So she's actually voiced by Manaka Yoami, who is also the voice of Rice Shower in Umusume, which was actually a huge shock to me and like a large amount of the people that actually watch my stream. So when she hit and they realized it was her voice, yeah, chaos. Anyway, it's interesting. I just hope that her story isn't nearly as tragic as Rice Shower's story. Though again, my chat was basically, yes, love is truly villainous. I understand now. I do understand now. Anyway, let's take a look at her. So she's brand new. She just came out. She has a unique mechanic, all her own. She is a hunter. And as we know about most hunters, they create bullets. Much in the same vein as Luke, Lucas, and Renoa, she too creates bullets. I think the only one who doesn't is Hugo, which is wild to think about. Oh, he's a ranger. That's why. Never mind. I'm dumb. So yeah, all of the hunters make bullets, which is weird. I just forget that he's a ranger and not a hunter. But whatever. Don't worry, we'll edit that one out in post. I say as I'm the editor. Anyway, yeah, so let's take a look at her stuff really quick. We discussed a bit of her stuff earlier on this week's stream, but we're going to take a quick peek at her cards. We're going to take a look at her ego. We're going to take a look at her partner choices, and then we're going to kind of figure out what we feel like would probably be the best build based on what I think is the funniest combo that you could possibly come up with when it comes to her team comp, building, and deck construction. She starts off with 2 disruption fires, which are her damage, protect me, which is her healing skill, which is funny that it's a heal and not a shield, but I think that's a ranger, not so much a hunter thing. And then her 5 crafted cards are With All My Heart, Come Here, Milk and Pong, Pistol of Purification, Blooming Love, and Liberating Feelings. She also, as you notice, has a unique keyword on her cards, Quietus. Quietus is a unique mechanic specific to Diana that allows you to, when the card is discarded, activate the card instead, and then it stays in the used card pile for the remainder of the turn. So you cannot automatically recycle the cards out of the discard or the used pile until the beginning of the next turn. So they're just sort of stuck there. I haven't gotten a chance to do a deep dive into Quietus and to see exactly how that works yet, but that's what next week is for. With All My Heart also generates 2 cards called Heartbreaker. Heartbreaker is a bullet card with haste and exhaust that does 80% damage. It randomly discards 1 bullet card from hand, and if this is the card that is discarded, it does 120% extra attack to a random enemy. We have Khmer Milk and Pong, which creates 2 Heart Shakers. Heart Shaker is a bullet card with haste and exhaust that does 1 resonance. If you discard a card, then you will discard a card at random from the draw pile. If it is discarded in this way, 2 resonance will be gained on a random enemy. Resonance is a specific extra attack, just like Mark from Salanam, only it is uniquely only when resonance is added. Resonance is just another way of saying Mark. It does a little bit more damage than Mark. Remember correctly, Mark is 50, this is 80, so it's a little stronger, but it also reduces the stack based on when you use it. So this is basically just a fancier, stronger version of Mark. Pistol of Purification does 100. It is a bullet that has the Quietus ability. It does 120% damage and adds 2 stacks of resonance. If this card is discarded, you will activate resonance inflicted on the target by this unit 3 additional times. So if they have 1 stack, you hit them 4. Rinse, repeat. Blooming Love is her draw card. It's a draw 1 Quietus, discard 2 cards. The discard is not a you may, it is a you must, so it is something that has to happen after the fact. We'll take a look at the epiphanies afterwards, but I'm pretty sure that could get annoying. Liberated Feelings, her ultimate card, draw 2 exhaust bullet cards. This is not specifically just her cards, it is any bullets with exhaust. 300% damage is then dealt to the enemy, and it increases the damage amount by 30% for each different bullet card in hand. This is a big reason why a lot of people are looking at partnering Renoa with her. Let's go back to Attack with All My Heart. Let's take a look at the epiphanies real quick. We got the standard 5 plus our generics. We have an increased damage with 3 Heartbreaker. We have base damage with only creates 1 Heartbreaker, but then draws 2 exhaust bullets. We have a third with stay 150 damage. Change all 1 cost or lower exhaust cards in hand into Heartbreaker. That could get really interesting with Tiff. Could also get really interesting with Orlea. I'll think about it. 4th Epiphany is a increased cost from 1 to 2. Create 2 Heartbreakers. Apply Quietus to all exhaust bullet cards in hand. That could be interesting. Final Epiphany is 3 cost. At the start of turn, create 2 Heartbreaker. If there are 5 or less bullets owned, you create an additional. This one could be interesting, and this one could be interesting. I feel like this one is a lot more versatile by turning all exhaust cards into Heartbreakers, which means you just turned all cards with exhaust, including creatures, bullets, anything that Serenial's lasers, like all of it, it's Heartbreakers. That is she's kind of an all-in, isn't she? Just from that epiphany alone, I can already kind of feel the gears turning. Come here, PogChamp creates 2 Heartshakers. The epiphanies on this is create 2 Heartshaker for the next 3 extra attacks by a different combatant. You get add 1 resonance. That could get out of hand. Discard up to 2 cards on hand. Create a Heartshaker for each discarded +1. Third is a 0 cost version that changes 0 cost exhaust cards in hand into random heart bullets. 4th is create 1 of each heart bullet, 1 resonance to a random enemy for each different bullet in hand. And the final is a retain unique upgrade with change Heartshaker in hand into Heartbreaker, and if you retain it, you create a Heartshaker. I can already see a retain deck building with that card epiphany too. Interesting. Might see how there's different ways of making that one work. Pistol Purification epiphanies. Moving on. Everything is bullet with Quietus except for the middle one, which takes away the bullet. That's interesting. What's the generic damage? It's 120. So increased damage with 3 resonance. And if this card is discarded, activate resonance inflicted on the target by 5 more times. So instead of 3, you get 5. So you get 6 resonance triggers? That's crazy. That goes crazy. 180% damage for the next 5 haste attack cards used, 1 resonance to the target. This is a very specifically only to her kind of epiphany. This one removes the bullet keyword and contain. I'm sorry. I keep saying keyword. Resonance is a keyword. These are affixes. Words are hard. English is hard, okay? This removes the bullet affix and keeps it as just a Quietus. Increased damage, activates resonance inflicted on the target by this unit 10 times. So 11 resonance triggers. That goes crazy. I feel like this one's really good. 180% damage plus 100% damage for each bullet discarded this turn. And finally, 180 damage to all enemies. So it turns it into an AoE when it's discarded. Activate resonance inflicted on all enemies 2 additional times. That's... interesting. Okay, cool. I like how that one works too. That's an interesting one. Blooming Love, Epiphanies. We go draw 1 card, discard 1. Discard. So instead of discard 2, it's discard 1. If the discarded card was a card of a different combatant, you create 2 heart bullets. Draw 1 Quietus, discard 2, 1 resonance to all enemies for each combined cost of the discarded cards, maximum of 6 resonance. Discard up to 3 bullet cards in hand. Draw a Quietus for each card for each discarded -1. Discard all bullet cards in hand. 80% extra attack to a random enemy for each card discarded. For each bullet discarded. And the final is a 3 cost increase, so it increases it by 2 to 3. Adds Quietus and Unique. If no Quietus cards of this unit are in hand, draw 1 Quietus once per turn. Okay, so that's just consistent Quietus card draw. Interesting. Ego Skill. Ego Skill, it creates 1 Cupid Shot and creates 2 random heart bullets. Cupid Shot is a 1 cost bullet with Quietus, is 120% damage, 60% extra attack to a random enemy for each bullet card in hand. And the 2 random bullets that she can create are Heartbreaker and Heartshaker. We've already gone over them. I don't need to do it again. Potential teams are pretty wide and crazy. Being able to take this right here with All My Heart Epiphany 3 creates chaos when it comes to the different types of decks that you can build, which means anything with exhaust could potentially become a Heartbreaker card. Basically, she takes everyone's love and turns it into a goddamn weapon. First of all, that's crazy. Second of all, wow, the potential for just burst damage at the end of a turn with her is pretty crazy to me, especially when you're looking at fights with only one or two monsters in it. Like when you're dealing with only 1 or 2, the amount of output she could do with that sort of amount of just additional cards at her disposal, she really wants to go all in often with that. She's very aggro, very aggro. Kind of my style. We'll see. This might be the first time I actually look at a hunter and go, ooh, I actually kind of want to play her to see how well actually she does. Like, I like Renoa and I like the brothers, but I don't think I like them enough to want to like focus on building them, because there's so many other characters that I like in the Ranger and Striker. Like, Denomination, I guess you could say. That it's just not, I don't know if it's not worth it or if it's just kind of weird to me. I'll break down kind of like what I think would be really fun later on. But for right now, let's take a look at partners, because I feel like this is going to be a very hotly contested section. I've had conversations with people over the last few months in this game about partners. And a lot of us feel that partners are not in a good place when it comes to the design of the 5-star partners. In every other gacha that exists, 5-star partners, or 5-star weapons, as they're typically known as, you typically want to get their weapon because that's what's going to give them the most bang for their buck in terms of a boost in ability. However, the problem is that a lot of the generic 5-star partners in this game, and by generic, I mean the ones that you can get off the standard partner banner or the group of gals that exist in the battle pass, they're not used. I guess is the best way I could put it. They don't get touched ever. 9 times out of 10, you can go on any different site that talks about build strategy. You can go to anybody that does consistent build strategy videos and commentary and anything. And every single time they tell you to use the same 4 stars. And if you don't have the 4-star, grab a 3-star, because the 3 stars are so prevalent, you're never going to not have one. So it really pains me to look at all of the facts when it comes to the fact that Smilegate has busted their ass to try to make these 5 stars more attractive, and they still haven't gotten the message. And I feel like that's something that needs to be discussed, because I think that some of the 5-star partners are really good, especially the banner partners. But at the same time, people don't agree with that. Like, I'm the one with the hot take. So this is what I'm going to say. Yes, I have Sophia, but that's also because I think she's adorable and I don't want Diana to be alone. Of course, I say that about all of the agents. Don't want their partners to be alone. There are 4 options here. Sophia, which is Diana's actual 5-star partner. You also have Akkad, Karady, Yuri, who are our 4- and 3-star options. And then, of course, there are also the other 2 5-star options. The Battle Pass 5-star option is Anonbo. I don't believe she's good anyway, regardless of the fact that she's Battle Pass specific. So you have to spend $10 and get to level 30 to unlock her. So take that for what you will. I don't think it's good, but here we are. And then, of course, you have our generic 5-star. I don't actually have them in the partner list because I went to the wrong thing because I'm used to the old interface. So the other 3 options you have are Janet, Kiara, and Serathea. Janet gives you the ability at max to do 24 assigned combatant damage, 18% critical chance to 1 cost or lower attack cards of the assigned combatant. When the assigned combatant uses 5 bullet cards, create a random handgun bullet card, increase damage amount of the created card by 200%. With a 3-cost Eagle skill that does 150% damage to all enemies, increasing the damage amount of designated combatants' bullets by 20% for 1 turn. She's really good for hunters. I think she's probably one of the better. But the problem is A, 5-star. B, that 24% is only going to happen when she's maxed. Otherwise, it's 16%, which is what you normally get from the 4 stars at max, which everybody has multiples of if you've been doing any amount of pulls. If you've been playing the game for as long as most of us have, you're going to see that having a baseline maxed out 4-star is going to be just inherently stronger than the 5 stars, because the 5 stars you have to actually gacha on, which, guess what? Most people aren't doing. And from the side of somebody who does content creation for this game, tell you not to do in the first place. Kiara is the other 5-star generic. She increases the assigned combatants from 16 to 24. Again, these were all buffed in the patch too, by the way, for postseason. I just be aware. When 10 or more cards are in the graveyard, you increase the amount of the assigned combatant's attack cards by 15%. When a card is discarded for the first time by the assigned combatant each turn, plus 25% damage to attack cards for 1 turn. That's all attack cards, not just the assigned combatant's turn. Eagle skill is a 3-point skill that does 200% damage plus an additional 20% damage increased by the number of cards in the graveyard. So if you have a full graveyard, you're going to do a lot of damage with that. Again, solid 5-star. Generally not somebody that you're going to use very often. Again, 5-star, hard to get, not something that's going to be good, but generally very good for any of the Rangers. I'm sorry, Hunters. Any of the Hunters. I don't know why I get Ranger and Hunter confused. Anyway, and then of course you have the Battle Pass 5-star Cerathea. Cerathea is an increase of 12 to 20, so she's actually unbuffed. She's lower than any of them, so already she's already been power crept at this point. 8% increased critical chance to the assigned combatant's attack cards. This is just a flat 8% critical chance, which is not actually that terrible. 3% additional critical damage when the assigned combatant attack card inflicts a critical hit, and that can stack 5 times. She is a 3-cost eagle that does 250% damage and adds 2 vulnerable. She is probably one of the, if not the only attacker-based Battle Pass partners that isn't bad, but she is incredibly generic. Again, you have to spend $9.99 and then get to level 30 on the pass down locker. Is that worth it? For most people, especially free to play, you'll never get her. So she's just a wash. Plus the fact that this number here caps out at 20 instead of 24 and starts at 12 instead of 16, like literally all the other 5-stars do now. She got power crept. She's just straight up, all of them got power crept, except for Nyx. Nyx will still, I still maintain that Nyx is the only one that's actually worth getting off the battle pass if you're going to buy the battle pass at all. Even at level 1, she is still, I'm sorry, even at ego level 1, she is still really good. But she's a controller partner, so there you have it. So yeah, Sophia is specific. She's uniquely specific. She boosts Quietus cards. It's meant specifically for Diana. If you roll for her, she's good. However, you are most likely going to stick to either Carity or Akkad. Both of which have good abilities. Carity specifically states that they increase at most 16% at full, which is not that terribly difficult to get to if you're actively pulling agents anyway, and she happens to show up. At the start of the turn, you increase the damage amount of one attack card of the assigned combatant by 20% at max, which it's okay. But when the assigned combatant creates a card for the first time, you increase the damage amount of all attack cards by 20% for 1 turn. This is something that can be done relatively quickly and easily, especially with all of the bullet creation you do with every single hunter that is in existence, except for maybe Lucas. But we're not going to get into Lucas. So Carity could be good if you don't have Akkad. Akkad is slightly more often seen than Carity, but maybe that's just me. I don't know. I think I'm right in that assumption that Akkad tends to pop up more often than Carity, but Akkad is also the other 4-star that pops up that is actually pretty decent. 16% at max. Increases the damage amount of assigned combatants' bullet cards by 20%. So that's just a flat 20% to every single bullet that she fires. Again, this is the same for all hunters, so even Renoa likes this partner. When the assigned combatant lands a crit for the first time, which is a ton of what Diana wants to do anyway, because that's part of her potential tree. Literally just says it increases the damage of all bullet cards by 24% for a turn at max. He also has the vaunted plus 25% critical chance of assigned combatants attack cards for 1 turn that you can use at the very beginning and then just unleash on people by basically just ending the turn and just firing all your bullets at people. So it's entirely possible that something like this happens. Mathematically, he's probably one of the best 4-stars for hunters, just numbers wise. And then obviously we've kind of already looked at this, but I'll go over it again anyway. Milky Way Chorus, Hunter passive effect, increase the assigned combatant's attack of 24% at max. When a Passion Quietus card of the assigned combatant is discarded, which is all of the Quietus cards that Diana is using, this is a Diana specific mechanic, 10% additional critical damage, max 4 stacks. Seems good. So every time you discard a Quietus card, you gain a stack that adds 10% critical damage. So that's a maximum of additional 40% critical damage when she crits. When 3 bullet cards are discarded, and that's any bullet card, I might add, the assigned combatant performs a 400% extra attack on a random enemy twice per turn. So you can discard 3, she does 400. Discard another 3, she does 400, and that's it. She has a 3-cost ego skill that does 3 stacks of Die Hard Fan, draws a card, and discards up to 2 cards. You can discard an additional 2 cards. Die Hard Fan, oh, that's right. Die Hard Fan doesn't show up here. Basically, it's a damage buff that occurs specifically when you do damage with the assigned combatant. It's okay. Yeah, so anyway, if you don't want or don't have Sophia, you're probably going to be using a COD. Just putting that out there. If you don't have either Carity or a COD, you will most likely have a billion copies of this little adorable nut, Yuri. Yuri says assigned combatant's attack is increased by 16% at max. Upon the first shuffle of the deck, the assigned combatant's damage is increased by 16% and has a 3-cost ego that draws 2 cards. Not good, not bad, but better if you don't have a 4-star available. If you don't have a COD, you're using Yuri. That's all there is to it. Those are the only hunter partners that we have outside of the 5 stars that you generally aren't going to have either. If you don't have a COD, you're using Yuri. Otherwise, Carity is good in specific situations when it comes to creating the cards. I personally believe that this centerpiece, the damage amount of one attack card by the assigned combatant is increased by 20% is negligible. This is actually not terrible. When they create a card, it's increasing their damage by 20% for the rest of the turn. So that's something that's generally going to happen every turn. And you have a flat 16% increased damage, plus the increased damage of all generated cards for 2. Like, Carity is technically the best. Like, if you don't have Carity, you're using a COD, but I believe that overall, while a COD's ability is solid, like his passive ability is solid across the board, you need to have a higher crit percentage for a COD to be perfectly usable. However, Carity is going to be just good in general across the board for something that's a little bit more consistent. That was the word I'm looking for. If you want burst, a COD. If you want consistency, Carity. Both are very good. They both have their positives and negatives. So yeah, I believe that a COD is a slightly better active than Carity, but take that for what you will. I think they're both very, very good. You can go 50-50 on either. It depends on how you're building the rest of your deck. If you're going to be going, like, again, I'm going to repeat myself here, but if you're going for burst, you're going to be using COD. If you're going for more consistent damage, you're probably going to be using Carity. That's the gist of everything here. So let's take a look at her potential. All of her basics are still here, 2% across the board for each level that you put into it. Her basic card proficiency is the ability to add a discard 1 random card of this unit to Disruption Fire. Disruption Fire is her standard basic attack that gives you the ability to discard a random card, which of course means that if you're discarding a random card and it happens to be a Quietus card, it's going to activate the Quietus card for free. That's actually not a terrible way of playing it. She also gets the critical chance and critical damage proficiencies. Her basic card proficiency is an additional 5% damage to her Disruption Fire card. And if her critical chance is greater than 20%, it adds an additional 5% to the modifier. So it adds a total of 10% at a 20% crit chance or higher. And her unique stat upgrade states that if her critical chance is greater than 10%, you gain an additional 4% extra damage. And for every 5% critical over that 10%, you add an additional 1% to that modifier for a maximum of 8% to that bonus, which gives us 12% total extra damage, so long as she has 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. That's what, 40% crit? 40% crit chance. Excuse me. That one's probably really hard to get to max. It's possible, probably only during the run, but still, that's pretty good. And then of course, every single time you go to get a new character, and all of our previous characters have been given the extra Divine Epiphany adaptation that gives everybody an increased chance for Divine Epiphanies to appear for that character by an additional 25% at max potential. Ego manifestations are as follows. E1, 100% additional damage to the Liberated Feelings card, and it changes the draw count of the exhaust bullets from 2 to 3. E2, every time an ally discards a card, you gain 2 stacks of Flutters. Flutters says at the end of the turn, 200% extra attack to the target with the highest max HP, and increased damage amount of the extra attack by 10% for every Flutter, then decreases all Flutters at the start of the turn, stacks maximum 20 times. E3, it changes the cost of the Radiant Smile to 4 and the creation count of Heart Bullet to 4. So yeah, this basically goes it makes her ego go from 1-1-3 to 1-4. It also increases the ego cost of the ability from 3 to 4. The battle passive upgrade that you get at E4 is 30% additional damage to all of her extra attacks, and an additional 1% damage to all of her extra attacks for each stack of Flutter that she has, for a total of 50% additional extra damage at full stacks. Her E5 is her normal stat upgrade, and her E6 is every time an ally discard a card, you gain an additional 2 Flutters. Instead of getting 2 per discard, you gain 4 per discard. And it increases the max stack count of Flutter by 10 from 20 to 30. Every time she flutters and it stacks to 30, all allies inflict an additional 200% extra damage to a random enemy once per turn. E6 can be really funny. Once again, we are in the depths of getting a standard free-to-play. Getting her at all is a really fun time. Getting her to E2 is generally where most people are going to want to get her to. I would probably say that getting her to E3 is probably her break point. That's probably her break-even point, but I think E2 is definitely another one of those. She's really strong. Getting her to E2 even makes her stronger. So once again, we're kind of on that boat. I currently have her marked to be billed at a 2/2/2 Executioner Blackwing Healer's Journey. I do not, nor have I ever been a proponent of running Curse Corpse on people who cannot generate agony without the ability to naturally generate it. That set was built for Tressa. Tressa got nerfed. Most people don't play Tressa, which is why it's really weird to me that people would want to run Curse Corpse when you don't have a reliable way of adding agony to people. Just run health. Health is a universally good stat. I don't care what anyone says. If you're in a run and you are struggling, 9 times out of 10, you are probably going to lessen your burden by adding additional health to all of your characters. If you are running a 2/2/2 build and you are not concerned with basic attacks, as most characters are not, you are not running sets, you are running Healer's Journey. Just saying. Her secondary stats are attack, extra, crit damage, and crit chance. Having multiple pieces of those is always going to be good. You also want to try to make sure that you're capping out as many of these as you possibly can. Gaining a little bit of extra defense or health across any character is generally good. Ego recovery is kind of a write-out stat, but if you're stuck with it, you're stuck with it. You also want to try to make sure that your number 5 is generally going to be set to passion damage as your primary for number 5, as that's typically where you're going to get that additional boost. But beyond that, everything else that you get is going to pretty much just be all about attack, extra damage, and crit chance. That is really where she shines. If and only if you are running either TIF or 9, you will swap to a 4/2 build. As we all know, that's 4-piece Glorious Reign, 2-piece Executioners. in most cases. If the character is less worried about crit and is more worried about straight damage, then you move over to the Blackwing set. Otherwise, you stick with Executioners and just go with a 4-2 build. However, if you are not going to be running with 9 or Tiff, then you are probably going to be going into 2-2-2 builds. And in that case, you're probably almost always going to be looking at doing 2-piece Executioners, 2-piece Blackwing, 2-piece Seasonal Journey. And that's pretty much all I'm going to say about that. You can argue with me in the comments if you really want, but I stand by the fact that I don't believe that there are any other better 4-piece sets except for the 4-piece set for Serenial. But that is not what this video is about. That's pretty much all I can say about that. In the long run, Diana looks like she's going to have a very interesting set of teammates that you can build most of your decks around and have a really fun and interesting time with. That being said, you can always go with your standard 3 build that's going to give you your 4-2 memory fragments by going Diana, Tifera, and 9, as is generally the case. However, going into actual save data and trying to figure out what's going to work good for weapons, armor, and accessories is its own video entirely. Knowing full well that she is somebody that can be built in a multitude of different ways and has a lot of interesting functions, finding out what is quote-unquote best in slot is something that I've always found to be a little asinine. I'm not a fan of trying to figure out what best in slot is, except for the fact that typically there are going to be chaos that are always going to be better when a season is active versus when its postseason is currently occurring. Especially since we are currently in the midst of having preseason and a season 3 preview, getting access to the persona cards kind of gets out of hand. I've already found one keyword in the new persona cards that I feel to be an absolute necessity, especially for strikers or aggro specific characters, and that's Death Brand. Death Brand is something that looks amazing when it comes to anybody that you are going to be aggro with. Death Brand specifically states plus 80% damage amount each time this card is used, and the attack is currently inflicted with Death Brand. With this card specifically, every time I Death Brand, it adds a stack, and the next time I attack, it does an additional 80% damage to that character. The next time that card is used, excuse me. So the way this card works is every single time you pull it and you use it, it gives you the ability to add a second stack of Death Brand, and B, do an additional 80% damage. The next time you hit, you will get, so when you hit with it the first time, it adds the stack of Death Brand and does the base damage. The second time you hit, it does a second stack of Death Brand and does the additional 80%. The third time you hit with this card, it adds a third stack of Death Brand and does 160% additional damage. This is something that stacks indefinitely, and if you're playing with characters that give you the ability to cycle your cards rapidly, an aggro card deck is going to go crazy with this keyword. The only reason I'm currently using it on Yuki is because I figured that would be a really interesting thing. The fact that I found it and was put on Yuki is crazy to me. So the ability for me to just draw into that card multiple times over and over and over and over, key. So there are a couple of options that you can do here. You can either go into a full aggro deck, which gives you the ability for anybody who creates exhaust cards or has cards that generally have exhaust in them, go absolutely nuts when you start epiphanying out Attack with All My Heart to make all of those specific 1-cost exhaust cards absolutely go crazy. So like, if you think about it, all of these are 0. So like, these aren't going to be affected, but all of the other bullets that are generally made are all 1-cost. So all of Renoa's bullets, all of Luke's bullets, all of the 1-cost exhausts that are generally built in certain, other decks, like, I don't know, I'm pretty sure the base homing laser that has the 1-cost that generates additional homing lasers is also really, really dumb with this. So yeah, there's a version of homing laser that can epiphany into costing 1, and that could also be used with this. So like the only thing that's interesting is it specifically says change all 1 cost or lower exhaust cards. So everything that's 0, okay, I read that wrong. It is or lower. So all of the archetypes, those get eaten. All of Serenial's lasers, those get eaten. All of Orlea's creatures, those get eaten. Oh goodness. All of Renault's bullets, those get eaten. All of Luke and Lucas's bullets, those get eaten. All of the if I remember correctly, all of his quest cards, all of Cassius's quest cards are 0 cost. Yeah, all of his quests. Oh, but they aren't exhaust, so never mind. Yeah, but you get the picture. Like, you completely understand. All of Tressa's shadow daggers. All of Tressa's shadow daggers. Those get eaten. All of Kairon's utilities. Those get eaten. Yeah. Take that for what you will, but I honestly believe that she is going to be able to be built with any number of people that build exhaust. And it goes absolutely crazy. Like, absolutely nuts. Tell me what kind of deck you guys are going to be building in the comments below. I would love to hear what you guys think as far as who you think would pair the best with her outside of what you've seen so far. Obviously, she's only been out for a few days, but I am absolutely enthralled with the idea of just making the jankiest burn exhaust that I've ever seen in this game, and cannot wait to try her out in Chaos and try her out against actual, you know, boss fights and stuff like that, because I really want to see what she can do. Anyway, I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Thanks so much for stopping by. Like I said, let me know what you think about Diana, about her partners, about her cards down in the comments below, and I will see you guys again next time. Bye-bye.